Opel's Astra sells in the most competitive segment in the Irish car market. 1 in every 3 cars sold here is a family compact, and there are no less than 40 contenders looking for that business. You just don't have to be good to get near the top, you have to be very good. Astra is the second car from Opel to get the perceived quality upshift, and the first one was the Insignia a couple of years ago. By and large, most of the response to it has been very, very good, and the perceived quality certainly has improved. Some of you might have been motoring long enough to remember the Opel Kadett of the 50s and the 60s. Well, the Astra is the spiritual successor to that car, and it's an awful lot better. The Astra in this guise has moved on from the style of its predecessor. It's got more curves, it's more rounded, it's got less sharpness. I think it looks very well, and I think it looks perhaps more user-friendly than the last one did. It's got some of the styling cues that are in the Insignia that I mentioned, including this character line here that looks like it was stolen from Nike. In this case, it's reversed compared to the Insignia. I like the way that the line goes back to the rear hatch. It's not easy to design a rear hatch that looks really well, but there's a good balance here between the lights, between the door itself, and between the bumper. And I think they've just got it right. This car, if you're traveling behind it, looks very good indeed. And while we're here, well, we'll take a look at the boot. It's probably about par for the segment. It's not that big, it's not that small, it's pretty good. But they have a very good feature in it, that it's a double floor. So if you lift up the top floor, you can hide valuables and things underneath. Inside, the designers have followed the curvy theme of the outside, and they've certainly pushed out the envelope in terms of quality. The finish is good, the fit is good, and the highlights are not in your face, they're rather elegant. There's more space than in the older car, and strangely enough, there's even more headroom in the back of the Astra than there is in the bigger Insignia. I'm 6'2", and the Insignia back seat is just not for me, but I'm perfectly okay here. There are good analog dials, but they're separated a bit too much. They can get obscured by the steering wheel at critical points, and that's a very elementary mistake. And at a time when other makers are striving to cut down on the number of buttons and switches, the state of the Astra's centre stack looks needlessly complicated. Still, the steering wheel itself is one of the nicest I've had in my grips for a long time. You quickly get used to the remote controls for the radio and the cruise system. The shifter is good too, but what I definitely don't like is the electronic parking brake. Call me old-fashioned, but I like the heft of lifting a parking brake handle, and also to see that it's set when I look through the window before leaving the car. Astra in Ireland now comes with 8 engines and 5 trim options. The engine in this review car is a 1.4 litre turbocharged petrol with an output of 140 horsepower, which is very respectable indeed for such a low capacity engine. But that's the kind of technology that the manufacturers are all going for now, because what it does is provide more power from a small capacity engine and at the same time reduce fuel consumption and therefore CO2 emissions. And think about this, just at the moment, 2 out of every 3 cars in Ireland sold are diesels in order to get down to the lower levels of taxation. But you really don't have to do that. With a car like this, with a 1.4 turbocharged petrol engine, it's a B-class CO2 taxation car. So you're going to find that there's really no need to be looking at diesel with some of the difficulties that provides if you want to get a low tax, a low road tax car. At this level, the Astra has 3 main competitors. There's Ford's Focus, Volkswagen's Golf, and Renault's Megane. The Golf is the biggest selling car in Europe, the Focus the biggest selling car in Ireland. Opel have gone a long way to try and make the Astra the top dog here. It might take time, but I'll be interested to see if they actually make it. You can get into an Astra from around 20,650 euros plus charges, and this one is a tad over 26,000. Now, I'll go out on a limb here, and I think that after a little time with the car, that it's worth every cent. See you next week.